Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, coming to you live and direct to talk some boxing, Google Hangout, special early morning edition. Um, Basically, man, first of all, it's early in the morning. It's like 7:53 a.m. here on the East Coast as I'm making this video. I got work in roughly 2 hours and 7 minutes, so we're gonna try to make this a fun video, but not too long. Um, so basically, the big news I came here to discuss, if you guys have been living under a rock, is that Canelo Alvarez is fighting not Gabriel Rosado, not the likes of David Lemieux, not even a Willie Monroe Jr. No, no, no. Canelo has decided to fight Amir Khan. I mean, Amir King Kong from 147. Yes, that's who Amir Khan is fighting on May 7th on pay-per-view in Las Vegas, and we got to deal with a lot of foolishness, buffoonery in boxing. So this is nothing new, and this is just like this is the most unusual news we've got in a while. So I guess I'll start with the fight and the styles and all that stuff. First of all, yesterday when the fight first got made, I was really optimistic about it, and I still am to a point, but I just don't see any way Amir Khan can win this, man. When you get a guy who comes into the ring at 175, a freaking light heavyweight, a guy that didn't feel any sort of effects from Cotto's punches, when Cotto, is a much bigger puncher than Amir. I mean, I just don't see how Amir's going to win this fight. He's not going to have the power to keep Canelo off of him. And Canelo, in the past, in the Lara fight, the Mayweather fight, in those fights, he showed endurance problems. In the Cotto fight, maybe it was because he was so much bigger than Cotto, but it looked to me, it looked like his endurance improved a little bit. And Khan's got great hand speed. Khan, can move in and out decently, but it's only a matter of time before Canelo catches him with that one clean shot. And if he catches him with that one clean shot, how is Khan going to react? We know Khan has a glass chin. We've seen him get knocked out by the likes of, forget Danny Garcia. He got knocked out by Breidis Prescott at 140. People forget about that. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't like the fight, but I give Amir Khan a lot of credit because, I said it in a Facebook post I made yesterday. When you see, and I know they're going to fight at 155, but basically Canelo is a middleweight. He's a full-fledged middleweight. So I'm giving Khan credit because, we don't necessarily see guys that are welterweights go up and fight middleweights anymore. That doesn't happen in boxing anymore, and I give him the balls for that. It shows that he really wanted a big money fight, that he was desperate for it, because for him to take this fight, it shows you that he really wanted a big fight. Now, I'm not saying it's the smartest thing to do with the Garcia fight out there, with the Kell Brook fight out there, but it shows you that he was telling the truth in that regard, as far as wanting a big name and a big fight and a big opponent. Golden Boy Promotions, they're obviously pushing Canelo really, really hard. Oscar De La Hoya views Canelo as like his son. He will not let that man lose under any circumstances if he can control it. And this is another sign that he's doing that, because obviously the Golovkin fight is huge, and people out there who don't really know much about boxing are gonna look at this fight from afar. They might not even buy the fight, but they'll go on ESPN, and when Canelo beats Khan, they're gonna say, "Wow, Canelo beat Amir Khan," and then they're gonna hype the Golovkin fight on ESPN and all the other networks. And you're gonna see that as it goes on. But man, Golden Boy Promotions, man, they're Oscar De La Hoya, he is always in promoter mode, and that guy always just contradicts himself. First, he said he didn't want to work with Floyd Mayweather. Then he has a video saying that he wants to promote Floyd Mayweather. And then he said he's for the fans getting the best fights in boxing, and now he does this. Like, come on, man. I mean, the hypocrisy is on 1,000 here. Now, I mean, Amir Khan's last performance, we saw him fight Chris Algieri, and that was Chris Algieri's first fight, his first camp with his new trainer, John David Jackson. Now, John David Jackson's a great trainer. We've seen fighters like Sergey Kovalev improve continuously, improve enormously, by, whether it's their just simple wrinkles he adds into their stance, whether it's bending their knees a little bit more, pure boxing. Whatever the case may be, we see guys improve under John David Jackson, and we saw in the first round of that fight, Chris Algieri, a guy who was supposed to get blown out of the water. This was supposed to be Amir Khan's, statement win before he gets a Mayweather or Pacquiao fight, and he didn't look so good. In fact, Algieri buckled his legs in the first round, and Algieri's a light puncher. The dude is a light puncher, and I mean, come on, man. Canelo has a history of really, being a diva. He's created his own weight division. I mean, I know on Twitter yesterday, I'm not really big into Twitter, but I had to use Twitter yesterday as far as looking at tweets to go see what Khan and Canelo and the boxing world was saying about this fight, because I just wanted to know. And I think Khan tweeted somewhere, he said, "I'm going to fight Canelo for the 155-pound title." And I'm like, 155-pound title? I wasn't sure there was such a thing as a 155-pound title. Now, I know there's a 154-pound title, but 155, that's Canelo weight. That's creating a new division, which people were getting on Canelo for months and months ago when he said that he was only going to fight Golovkin at 155, which was, Canelo weight, which is ridiculous considering the fact that Canelo rehydrates and goes up to 170-something. Now, I'm not sure if there's a rehydration clause for this fight, but if I had to take a guess, I'm going to say no, there's not. I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere in a boxing group that said there is no rehydration clause, so I'll have to go research that later. But damn, man. And then now, like I was thinking about this too. I was thinking about this too before I went on air. What does that do for Golovkin? Because Golovkin had his mandatory fight with Terrell Johnson. Terrell Johnson got injured, so he's not going to be in that fight. And so is he going to fight Dominic Wade? Is he going to fight Dominic Wade? I don't know. I just know that whoever Golovkin's next opponent is, it's not going to be a name opponent. It's going to be the kind of opponent where people in the YTBC who don't like Golovkin are going to say, well, he's cherry picking. He's doing this and he's doing that. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. This move is having a real, this fight right here being made is going to have a terrible ripple effect on boxing, because Canelo has the middleweight title, but he's fighting at 155 again. So really, it's a 155-pound title. So he just created a new division. Okay, so there's that. Then the winner of this fight will probably fight Golovkin. So let's just, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but let's just say Amir Khan pulls a rabbit out of the hat and somehow beats Canelo, which I highly doubt, because even if he does outbox Canelo, we know the judges are not gonna give him the decision. But let's say it happens. Let's say he gets lucky. Canelo gets tired. Something happens, breaks his hand. Khan starts tattooing him, and eventually he stops Canelo. If that happens, then all of a sudden you have Amir Khan as a WBC middleweight champion, and Golovkin's the #1 mandatory for that belt. So then is Khan gonna fight Golovkin? I mean, it's ridiculous. And then what happens to Brook? The Brook fight. You think Khan will still take that? Personally, I don't see him taking that fight. I know other people have said that they think when Khan loses this fight, he'll go take the Brook fight, and that him being on pay-per-view with Canelo is going to give him leverage in negotiations for a Brook fight. But I don't necessarily believe that. If he goes in there, which many people believe he will, and gets tattooed by Canelo, let's say Canelo lands a James Kirkland-like knockout on this dude, then all of a sudden you're going to have Amir Khan, really, really hurt real bad. It's going to keep him out of the ring for months upon months. We don't know how long. He had a long layoff here, and he just only fought Chris Algieri. Imagine if he gets tattooed by Canelo, and he's not going to go take a Brook fight. I guarantee you, if he gets knocked out by Canelo the way James Kirkland did, expect to see a year layoff. I'll put any amount of money on it. He will take a year layoff, unless he goes to fight a scrub. But if he's not too keen on fighting a scrub, he's gonna do the year layoff. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. But man. And then as far as a lot of us want to see Khan Garcia too. I mean, I was the #1 guy. I was the #1 advocate for that fight happening, Khan Garcia too, because I wanted to see if with Amir being a little bit stronger at 147, would that have any effect in a Garcia fight? Because I feel Garcia has definitely plateaued since their last fight. Garcia was ascending. He was getting better when they fought. But since then, he's kind of flatlined as far as his progression and his skills go, and I don't think he's gotten any better. So I think Amir Khan would have been able to outbox him and even really, if he fights the right fight in the later rounds, could stop Garcia. As crazy as that sounds like, because he's a little stronger at 147 than he is at 140. We gotta remember that he's a little stronger. But I mean, it is what it is. And then on top of that, part of me wants to commend Khan and say, wow, great job. You're going up. You stuck true to your word. You wanted a big fight, and you did it even though these conditions are not going to favor you at all. But then at the same time, when he was at 147 and he brought guys like, Devin Alexander and Chris Algieri, who are not true 147-pound fighters, but he didn't want to fight the likes of Kell Brook, didn't do the Thurman fight. There were a lot of fights there at 147 for Amir Khan, and he didn't take them. And now he's going up to 155, a weight he's never fought at, to fight Canelo Alvarez. I mean, come on, man. It is what it is. And I mean, listen, I am an Amir Khan fan. Recently, the last 8 months or so, he's been the kind of I've really been pissed off at Amir Khan, because he's been, doing things that have been very diva-like. He's been doing he hasn't been. He's been chasing Mayweather around. He's been chasing Pacquiao around. I mean, if he got on a boat and started yelling "Let's go, champ," he'd be Shannon Briggs. The way he was talking, the way he was chasing those guys around. So I mean, hopefully, I'm really hoping for a good fight. I don't think it's gonna be. I really don't think that Khan's gonna win the fight, because even if he boxes smart, if he boxes a shutout, I don't think he'll win. I think he'll get a draw or lose, because we know that Canelo, Golden Boy, whenever Canelo's involved in a fight, that there's going to be some serious buffoonery and coonish stuff going on, that they're going to rob Khan, even if he does box a really great fight. So, I mean, we saw in the Cotto fight. The Cotto fight, I gave Cotto maybe 3-4 rounds. We saw the judges giving Cotto 1-2 rounds. Like, they had it 10-2 for Canelo, 11-1 for Canelo. Like, there were some wide scorecards, and I guarantee you, on this card, being that the Golovkin fight is huge, and that's on the table. If Canelo may have a statement performance and knock a guy with a glass chin out in Khan, then fully expect to see the judges like Dave Moretti, Burt Clements, C.J. Ross, the usual suspects you get at the Canelo fights, to have wide scorecards, even if Khan does put up a good fight and does manage to go 12 rounds. And that's another thing. If Khan goes 12 rounds of Canelo, I mean, we saw against Miguel Cotto, and credit to Cotto, he was a game fighter. He was a guy that really went in there and really wanted that W, but couldn't get it. Just didn't have the power and couldn't hurt Canelo enough to respect him and affect Canelo. He just walked right through his punches, and Canelo showed the ability to counter Cotto. But what I'm saying is, if Canelo couldn't hurt Cotto, I mean, Cotto could have hurt Canelo, don't expect Khan to hurt Canelo, okay? And, Khan the only way Khan's going to have a chance in this fight, I'm telling you, the only way he's going to have a chance in this fight, he's going to have, he's going to have to be smart with how he picks his combinations, because we know Khan likes to throw those flurries, throw those 3-punch, 4-punch, 5-punch combinations and get out of range quick. If he's going to do that against Canelo, he's got to be very smart. He's got to pick his spot every single round. I think for the first 2 rounds, he's got to feel Canelo out. Don't even engage with him. Let Canelo engage with you. Counter punch, throw maybe another punch after that, they can get out of range. That's his best chance, and that's what it is, man. But the Golovkin fight is on the table. I lost my train of thought. I'm trying to regain my train of thought here. It's early in the morning, and I just had breakfast, so bear with me. But the Golovkin fight is on the table, and Oscar De La Hoya is marinating that fight. And this is Amir Khan's a big name, so getting that name on his resume, regardless of what weight it's at, will be huge for Canelo. If he gets a statement win over Khan, then the fight will be made. If Khan goes in there and boxes 12 rounds, and Canelo doesn't stop him, if Canelo does not stop Khan in 12 rounds, that looks really bad for Canelo. It's horrible for Canelo. Because here you have a guy who's never fought above 147, and when he was at 147, he was fighting 140-pounders, and you're fighting him. He's got a glass chin. He's been knocked down in every weight class he's been at. He's been knocked down by fringe B-level guy, C-plus guy, and Breedis Prescott. He got destroyed by Breedis Prescott, who's a C-plus B-level guy. So it's Canelo Canelo is you know, in a way he's in a win-win, but he's in a lose-lose as well because he knocks out Khan, then oh, you just knocked out a guy who has the worst chin in boxing and who never fought at 155. You're supposed to do that. But then if Khan goes 12 rounds, Khan doesn't even have to win. If Khan goes 12 rounds, that says more about Khan than it does Canelo. Canelo will be looked at, and he's already looked at by a big contingent in the boxing world as a fraud, as a paper champion, as a guy who has a middleweight belt but doesn't want to fight at middleweight. And he's big enough to fight at middleweight because when he rehydrates to the light heavyweight limit, which is 175 pounds. Middleweight is 160. So, I mean, Canelo at some point he's got to hike up his skirt. Okay, he's got to hike up his skirt, and he's got to really fight. He's got to fight at middleweight. Okay, at middleweight, and he said he's not gonna fight Golovkin unless it's at 155. Tom Loeffler and K2 Promotions recently came out and said that they're not gonna fight Canelo unless it's at 160. And as we know, in the WBC rules, and if you're a mandatory challenger, you can't if you're fighting a mandatory challenger, you can't negotiate a catch weight. And as we know, Golovkin is the #1 mandatory for that belt that Canelo currently holds, which is the WBC middleweight title, which he won against Miguel Cotto. So that's what it is, okay? That's what it is there at middleweight. So I'm interested to see that because we all know, if you guys follow boxing and you guys really know what's going on, you know that the WBC and Oscar De La Hoya are in cahoots with each other. They're real close. They work around the rules. They're a Mexican ranking organization, and being that Canelo is the biggest cash cow for Mexican boxing, they'll do whatever they can to ensure that Canelo is in the best possible position to win. And fighting at 155 puts him in the best possible position to win because guys got to drain themselves down, and then when they kill themselves down to 155 to make the weight, then when they rehydrate, they might rehydrate maybe to 160, 165, and then you have Canelo who rehydrates to 175. So it's a real disadvantage because Canelo's coming in with a 10-pound, 15-pound weight advantage regardless. And against Khan, he'll definitely come in, at a 20-pound weight advantage, and I just don't see how Khan's gonna hurt him, man. This is some serious buffoonery. I really like yesterday when I heard the news. I just got off of my job. I was working, and then one of my good friends, shout out to my boy Paul Martinez, he messaged me, and he said that he didn't even say that the fight was official. He just said Canelo Khan, and I was like, I didn't know what he meant. So I was like, well, Canelo Khan. I was like, I heard about that fight before. And then he's like, yeah, but it's official now. I'm like, official? Stop playing with me. So then I go on Google, I type in Amir Khan, and I see the news articles. I'm like, whoa. So it was some of the most surprising news we're probably going to get all year as far as Canelo, as far as boxing goes. And I don't know. There's just so many other fights I'd rather see than this. I would have been more happier with Canelo Lemieux or Canelo Willie Monroe Jr. being the fact that they're at least middleweights or 155 pounders, I guess. Willie Monroe Jr. Would have been an interesting matchup because he's a boxer who doesn't have a lot of power but can move. He's a southpaw like Lara, so it would have been interesting to see if Monroe could have capitalized off of what Lara did against Canelo. Could he kind of emulate the same thing that he saw Lara do? That there's that there, and then you have what's his name? David Lemieux, who's already said that. I did a video on it. He's already said that he wants to fight the best, that he's interested in fighting the Jacobs, the Saunders, those guys. That's what he wants, and you got to believe him because he's one of the few middleweights that actually stepped up while he had a title and could have took easier fights. And he said, okay, I'm going to fight Gennady Golovkin, the guy who's one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, and he took his lumps, and he went in there and just was outclassed by a guy who was sticking that jab in his face. So any one of those guys would have been better for Canelo than Amir Khan. They would have all presented a much tougher challenge. So it is what it is there. But so I kind of gave him the negative side of how I feel. That's what I really think is going to happen. I don't see Khan winning. I think the weight advantage will just be too much. And Khan's a great boxer, skilled boxer, a guy who's really talented. You don't win a silver medal in the Olympics at 17 years old being a scrub. And he's by no stretch of the imagination is this guy a scrub. This guy has a heart of a champion. But it is what it is. I gave you what I think is gonna happen. Now I'm gonna play optimistic. I'm gonna be optimistic here for a second. if Khan somehow pulls this out of his ass, if he somehow wins this fight, if he wins this fight, man, that'd be a huge statement, man. You know, to go up from 147 to fight a guy who's gonna have a 20-pound weight advantage on you. You know, if he goes in there, let's say he's in there for 4 rounds, you know, he's sticking it with that jab and he's moving out of range and he's tiring Canelo out, making Canelo work, and then he gets into those later rounds and his punch output is just so high that Canelo has expended too much energy. Canelo's been caught more than he'd like to, and then you see Canelo kind of get really inactive, start loading up on his punches, missing, and you see Khan eventually, Canelo just tires out, doesn't throw a lot of punches, and then Khan just starts, you know, tattooing him with those combinations, you know. You guys might think I'm crazy for this, but you know, Khan is they're about the same height, to be honest with you. It's not like Khan's this short and Canelo's this tall. They're about the same height. Khan might be a little bit taller. Khan's got a 1-inch reach advantage. We know Khan is good at controlling range. So if he's able to withstand maybe the first 4 to 6 rounds of Canelo, which is very hard considering that Canelo's timing is getting better. We saw him landing check uppercuts against Cotto. If he's able to withstand the early part of the fight, then I could see Khan in the later rounds, you know, having a lot of success, peppering him with combinations, moving out of range, seeing Canelo get very frustrated. I'm not saying it's going to happen, and the scenario, and that happening is very unlikely because I do think Khan gets caught a few times in the first 6 rounds. But what I am saying is, if he can get through those 6 rounds and make Canelo work in all those rounds, then, and that's a big if he can do that, then he can win. He can actually pull this out. I mean, he might not win it on black and white paper because the judges will rob him, but I'm saying, like, boxing fans will know if Khan won this fight or not just by watching. So that's what it is, man. I hope we get a good fight. I hope it's not. I hope Canelo doesn't just go in there and wash him. But yeah, man, I think physically speaking, you know, outside of the weight is going to be the biggest variable in this fight because anything Canelo lands on Khan will have an effect. But as far as reach goes, Khan does have a slight advantage there. He can't control range. He does have the speed advantage. And as we know in boxing, you know, the old adage is speed is power. And in the later rounds, if Khan is feeling good enough, you know, to pepper him with some combinations, you know, Canelo will feel it. So that's just my take on it from the optimistic standpoint. If Khan can get those first 6 rounds and make Canelo work. But yeah, man. I mean, we'll see what happens. This like I said, this is gonna have a ripple effect on boxing. The welterweight division is now gonna be, you know, in a bit of a weird place because Garcia Khan was seemingly the most realistic fight for Garcia as far as the big fights go, because you know he's not gonna get Porter or Thurman right away. You know, he'll probably take another soft touch, and then he might go fight one of those guys. Okay, we know he's not gonna get in the ring with those guys right away. So then you have that there. You have, you know, Earl Spence is out there at 147, so Garcia is probably not going to fight any of those guys. So Khan taking this fight and not the Garcia fight and forcing WBC's hands to make the Garcia fight happen, you know, that's going to have an effect on the division. And Garcia might have vacated that anyway, so we don't know, but it would have been nice to see Khan at least force the action to make that fight happen, or take a soft touch, get some experience, get a win under your belt, get some confidence back, because he's been out of the ring for almost a year. And by the time he fights Canelo, I think it'll have been an 11th month layoff. So that's another thing. Khan coming off an 11-month layoff to fight at a weight he's never fought at against a guy who's going to weigh 20 pounds higher than him. That's a tall order. And like I said, if he wins this fight, to me, he's legendary. If he wins this fight, that's just my opinion. But as far as the welterweight division goes, like I said, you know, people wanted to see Thurman Khan. You know, if Thurman would have won this fight and Khan would have got, you know, a big win against like a Garcia, you know, that fight could have been on the table. People want to see Thurman Khan. That was another one. So this in many ways might screw up the landscape of the welterweight division. But then at the same time, if Canelo goes in there and tattoos Khan, and then Khan comes back and gets a few easy wins against some scrubs, then maybe people look at it as more vulnerable, and they make those fights happen anyway. But I mean, there's a lot of variables in this fight. I think it's very interesting. It's going to have a huge effect on boxing. You know, it's really in many ways. You know, if Khan wins this fight, Canelo's not happening. That's another thing. I know a lot of people are going to root for Khan to win this fight. I am too. But if he somehow wins this fight, Canelo Golovkin is not happening. That the interest on that fight just goes significantly down, because then Canelo, the perception of Canelo at least, is definitely devalued by the public because you lost to a freaking welterweight with a glass chin. So hey, it is what it is. But it's 8:17 right now. Um, Man, there's not a whole lot of fights this month. The only real fight we're gonna have in boxing, big, at least as far as big fights go, and literally it's not that big, but will be Terrence Crawford, Hank Lundy. So that's a while away. But man, this is some interesting news. I'm not gonna say it's great news, but it's interesting news. So yeah, I mean it is what it is. I think Golden Boy though, if they're trying to maximize the business for Canelo Alvarez, they're doing the right thing for them. They're not doing the right thing for the fans, because for the fans, this is the ultimate, screw you. But for the pockets of Golden Boy Promotions, this is a good fight because, first of all, May 7th, May in general, is always a big week for Mexican boxing. It's always a big week for boxing in general. Being that Canelo is Mexican, a huge Mexican boxing star, will be fighting on Cinco de Mayo. It'll be a pay-per-view fight. Amir Khan has a big fan base. This is a good business move for Golden Boy Promotions. And Oscar's lining up his pockets really, really well. So, I mean, hey, it's crazy how things work out. But his pockets are going to be good for that fight. If Canelo wins, then that sets up a big money fight. So Golden Boy Promotions is essentially, rather than taking a guy like Rosado or Lemieux or Monroe, guys that Canelo would be favored to not just beat, to beat, but wouldn't be as big money fights as Khan. They're cashing out on not one big money fight, because they'll have Golovkin on the table if they can get past Khan, but they'll have two big money fights. So you can call it greed, you can call it whatever, but they're just doing what's best for their pockets, and it's no different than the rest of boxing. The rest of boxing is always interested in the bottom line, and if you can't affect the bottom line in boxing, the promoters will make these fights. So that's what it is, man. But damn. Khan Canelo, I'm still trying to just process this. Like how does De La Hoya, Hopkins, forget De La Hoya for a second. How does Hopkins think this is a good fight? I'm a Hopkins fan. I know Hopkins, as the promoter, it probably thinks differently than Hopkins the fighter, but Hopkins the fighter has got to intervene in his reign somewhere. How does Hopkins allow De La Hoya to even make this happen? Did Hopkins have any say in this? Like, did Hopkins say, hey, well, I don't think this is going to be good because the fans are going to look at it this way? Did Hopkins say, well, Canelo is a freaking middleweight who rehydrates to a light heavyweight, and then he's going to fight a welterweight? So, this is literally like you're talking about freaking a guy like Adonis, like Sergey Kovalev, a guy who weighs as much as Sergey Kovalev. Like Sergey Kovalev fighting like Keith Thurman. That's what this is. Like, it's crazy, man. It's freaking crazy. But and then another thing I wanted to talk about. There's a lot of dynamics going on with this, but Amir Khan, as we know, was promoted by Al Heyman, or is advised by Al Heyman, whatever you want to call it. But he's with Al Heyman basically. How in the hell did he get out of his Heyman contract to get into this fight? I know we had, Khan's fought on Showtime. He fought, I think, the Alexander fight was on Showtime. His last fight he had with Algeria was PBC on Spike. So how did he get out? Did he get out of his Heyman contract? Did he find a loophole? Because it's crazy. We know that the Wardell and Reed money that Al Heyman got, they got $500 million. They got roughly $500 million to use for that. And Al Heyman has ran through 84% of that. There's reported to go out of that. They're gonna run out of that money this month. So could this mean that Al Heyman is gonna have to work with Golden Boy or not Top Rank, but Golden Boy again? Like they're gonna start Kobe Morty again. Is that how this is gonna work? Because he lost all of his money. That venture looks like it's gonna fail. Unless he gets some other funding, which he probably could, but I'm just going off of what I know. And what I know is that they've lent 84% of their money. And, are a lot of his fighters going to start jumping back to Golden Boy or Showtime? I'm just curious. I would like some more clarity on that. Anybody in the boxing world who might know about how Khan got onto HBO, how he's fighting a guy with Golden Boy, let me know, because I'm not really sure how that works, and I would love to know. So if anybody has some information on that, please let me know. And I was actually watching. There was Amir Khan. Amir Khan has actually done an interview. So if you guys haven't checked it out, go on ES News, Ellie Seckbach's channel, and go check it out. He did an interview about the Canelo fight, and he talked about, he gave your kind of generic quotes. He basically said, oh, well, Canelo's a big name fighter. I've said I wanted to fight big names, and I'm fighting a big name now. So, he goes into that a little bit, but then he talks about his weight, which I found interesting. I actually wanted to hear about what he was going to say about the weight. That was the most interesting thing to me. And he said basically that as far as the weight goes, he said he walks around 165, and he said that making 155 will actually be easier for him rather than making 147. So we'll see, man. If that is the case, and it is easier for him making the weight at 155, there might actually be I don't want to say an advantage for it, but if he's feeling comfortable, if he somehow feels comfortable at 155, which I highly doubt he will, because anybody who knows boxing knows that when you cut weight and if you put on or take off weight, you have to give your body time to settle into that weight, and he's not going to have time to settle into that weight. Even if he walks around at 165, he's still going to have to take 10 pounds off and have his body be comfortable settling in at that weight. So I found that interesting. Obviously he talked about boxing smart and having the speed advantage and all that nonsense, all that stuff. So I mean, it is what it is. I think Khan, has balls of steel for taking this fight. To be honest with you, he's gonna get big money and all that stuff, but he's got balls of steel, because if he wins this fight, pulls it off, he's looked at as legendary. In my opinion, I look at him as legendary, because this is everything is stacked against him. The judges will be on Canelo's side. The weight is on Canelo's side. The venue, it is what it is with the venue, but probably be a pro-Mexican crowd. And you have you're the one with the most questionable chin in boxing. So he pulls this off. I mean, he can come back down to 147 and say, well, Thurman, Garcia, whoever he wants to negotiate a fight with, he could look them right in the eye and say, look, I beat Canelo Alvarez. What have you done? What have you done? Oh, Garcia, you knocked me out, cool, but I beat Canelo Alvarez. I went up, I fought a middleweight and I beat him. So what can you do about that? I mean, he wins this, he gets a lot of leverage, but I highly doubt he will. So we're just kind of fantasizing. But I hope he does. I hope he just puts up a good fight. But anybody out there who knows about how he got this fight made, being that he's an Al Haymon fighter, this is an HBO card, he's fighting a Golden Boy fighter, anybody with any info on that or any insight on that, please let me know, because I'm just curious about that. But yeah, man, Canelo Khan, May 7th, HBO. I'm gonna get out of here because I have to go to work. It's early in the morning. But you guys out there, let me know what you think about this fight. Mismatch. If you think it's a mismatch, let me know. Do you think Khan has any chance of winning? And if he does, how does he do it? And what does this do to the overall landscape of the welterweight divisions and middleweight divisions in boxing? And do you think that with Canelo fighting at 155 pounds, that this creates a whole new avenue for fighters to start creating their own little catchweight divisions? Because we've been seeing that in boxing. Kind of started with Cotto, and now to even more extent, it's happening with Canelo. So that's what it is, man. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm gonna get out of here. Brendan Taylor, True School Sports, got a lot of great things coming up. Hopefully some more interviews coming up soon. And I plan on going down to the Heavyweight Factory to talk to Shannon Briggs soon. And maybe talk to Amir and Mom. Probably not for interview, but just talk to him. But I got to interview Shannon Briggs soon. So stay tuned for that. And I got other things coming up. So we'll get out of here. Take care, guys.